What's up, everybody, and welcome to a brand new episode of Bookworm's Book Corner, where we talk all things books. I'm your host, Elizabeth Berg, and today we're doing something a little bit different. Tonight, we're doing an episode of Bookworm After Dark, a Q&A session where we talk all things books, book-related items, and just pet peeves of the book community. I thought that this would be a good time for us to just get in our PJs since we have the day off tomorrow for our federal holiday, pew pew pew, and we're just going to relax and talk about just a couple different book related things. So make sure you're comfortable. Get your jugs of water, everybody. And if you're feeling up for it, your favorite plushie, tonight we are joined by Mothy the Mothman. And let's start talking. So, my last book episode, I talked about how I was thinking about doing a Q&A video where I talked about my book quirks, my book pet peeves, or my book-icks, more or less, and my favorite types of tropes, and how I really pick the books that I pick. And I thought to myself, you know what? This would be a really good episode to just do as our first time of Bookworm After Dark. Obviously, it is nighttime. And as we wind down for the evening, hashtag teacher life, I just thought it'd be a really good time to decompress and take a step back from, our everyday things in our standard podcast program. So, first things first, allow me to introduce myself and talk about what I'm about and who I am. My name is Elizabeth. I am a 24-year-old possum. I am an educator, and one of my favorite things to do is read. Read has always been a part of my life. I've been reading for a very long time, and I will not go anywhere without a novel. I went to an auction for my work, a big, fancy type program. I had like heels on and I had a dress on, and I looked ba-bam, but in my purse, I literally had a novel and my emergency Birkenstocks. So, I mean, I'm a really big bookworm. I enjoy a good novel. I like playing video games, and my favorite color is red. My other thing that most people know about me, I am a cat mom. I have four beautiful fur babies who sometimes make their selves known on the channel by popping in and out of a video as I look over my shoulder to make sure one doesn't jump on my head like the last time. Um, so one of the things we're going to start off with, and this is how our video is going to work. I have a few questions that I'm going to answer. I'm going to talk about different book-icks and explain what a book-ick is. And then I'm going to talk about how I pick books that I'm currently reading, and we're going to finish off our video with explaining and going over the pros and cons of annotating. So, I think the best thing to start with is let's talk about books, baby. Icks. For those who don't know what an ick is, first of all, where have you been? I'm kidding. If you've ever gone on a date, which most of you probably have, if you have not, it is okay. Allow me to explain. Reading a book is like dating. Reading a book is like finding a therapist. Reading a book is like looking for the best ice cream flavor. Let me tell you something. Books can have icks. Let me repeat that. Books can have icks. So, a book ick is when it completely turns you off from either the book, the reader, like novelist, person, the author, or just overall in general. And I have a lot of book icks. I am the least pickiest person when it comes to books. I love all sorts of books, but there are book icks that cause me to like really stop, and it takes me a second because if it bothers me, I'm going to really have a hard time reading the book. So, my first book ick, which is going to surprise probably a lot of you, and I I'm really embarrassed, but it is what it is. I'm not a fan of hardcover books. I said it. I'm ashamed, but it's the truth. I do not like hardcover books, and here is why. Hardcover books for me are my biggest, like, pet peeve because A, they're expensive, B, they're really heavy, C, they're really bulky, and D, the fact of the matter is books can be ruined so easily, and, like, allow me to show you. Let me see. Where did I put my hardcover? So I get my books from a lot of different places. I go on Amazon a lot. Um, Target, you should literally ask Zach. There was this one time after I had my COVID shot a couple of years ago, he had to take my debit card away because I literally spent $200 worth of books on Target online. Whoops. I also get them, I've gotten them from Walmart. I've gotten them from, the this consignment stores. Oh my goodness, I can't even talk today. Like for example, up in State College, there is this bookstore called Webster's, and it's a used bookstore. Great place. Love that place. Um, so I've gotten books from there, Goodwill. Um, my friends have gotten me books. One of my parents during Teacher Appreciation Week bought me a book, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, I loved her. I love her so much." And the book, I love the book. But like another place I get is Book of the Month. So Book of the Month is this thing where you can pay $10 for the first book, and then each month you can pay $15 to get a brand new hardcover book. One that was literally just published that month. So, for example, this is a copy of one of mine from 2021, Everything We Didn't Say by Nicole Barrett. Um, it was in October, Book of the Month. I've had Book of the Month for a couple years. Um, Once you pay for your first book, um, when the books come out, what you can do is you can get up to 2 add-ons in the books with books, and it can be $10 per book. So basically, for $30 a month, if you get up to 3 books, you are paying $30 for 3 books compared to, $30 for 1 book, which, to me, I rationalize that as a pretty decent choice, especially because I try to just get the 1, maybe 2, depending on the book of the month's options. They usually have, romance, contemporary, um, thriller, mystery, horror. It just depends on the month. Um, so my issue with hardcovers is, first of all, they're bulky. If I were to read this and I like drop it on my face or, whatever, it obviously it's going to hurt. I do a lot of my reading, either in bed or when I'm at work. I run the extended care program, so I read, after school. I read during lunch. Um, so it honestly depends on, where I'm feeling comfortable reading. And one of the big things is hardcover books can be really bulky and they can be really expensive. Um, and they're heavy. So I'm not going to want to carry a bunch of hardcover books, especially in my bag, when I go to work. Um, it upsets me a lot more when, like, a hardcover book gets ruined. Like, a couple weeks ago, I had, a can of soda in my bag, and it was fine, it was all good, and then I opened up my bag, and somehow the soda magically exploded in my bag, ruining one of my books. Um I was upset, super upset. So, hardcovers and I don't always get along. The book jackets are the other issue. So, like, for an example for this is like with this book of the month book jacket, um, there's nothing on it. So if this book jacket gets ruined, the book's gonna be naked, and I'm not gonna like I really like looking at the covers of my books. That is really like when it comes down to it. And hardcovers, it just to me it's a personal preference. I It's just how I am. It's weird. I acknowledge that. But I mean, will I read hardcovers? Yeah. I buy one every month. Um they look pretty on my bookshelf, but the likelihood of me buying a hardcover book is pretty rare. I just bought one. It's a Vampire like Royal Coven series. It's a 3-in-1 book. Um, I was really upset, like almost on the verge of tears because I ordered it off of Amazon and the book was already destroyed. Like the cover was already like messed up. Thankfully though, the book jacket matched the actual cover, so I was able to take off the book jacket to like save it and just have the book. But I mean, it just depends on, who you are. So that is my first big book ick, which a lot of people probably find really funny, but it's just who I am. Something on Book Talk that really kind of made me laugh is I'm a really big bookworm. I devour books like a lot. But I also consider myself to be a book dragon. I get a lot of comfort from the amount of books that I have. Um, it brings me joy. So, I mean, hardcovers are really nice and all, but to me they're not always the most practical, and I'm willing to wait till it comes out in paperback. Now, special editions like of Lore Olympus and books that I'm not going to read, but like they're to keep, I'm fine with that. Like I have like the special hardcover Barnes and Noble editions of Lore Olympus because I love the webcomic and I bought them in hardcover. So I mean, it just everyday reading, no, but like to keep forever, yeah, I'll take it. Um, so that is my spiel about my first ick. My second biggest ick about books in general is, and I've said this before in my previous videos, I'm very ornery when it comes to books that I buy. Now, it's kind of a gamble when you go on Amazon and you don't know what like the pages look like. I judge books by their covers all the time. I like books with pretty covers, and if they sound good and they look good, bada bing, bada boom, it's in my cart. Holla! But like sometimes books can have really nice covers and they sound great, but then I have a really hard time reading them because of what they look like on the inside. So, for example, let me see. If you take a look at these like 3 books right here, um, if you take a look at the novels, it's kind of hard to see in this light, but what you would notice is that pages come in a variety of shades. Here's another good example if you look at them a little differently. So, pages come in a variety of like shades and textures. For sensory friendly recommendations. For me, if a page is really thin, I'm going to be really paranoid about reading it. Um, I'm really hard on my books, as I've said. I don't dog ear my pages. That I will not do. That will bother me to no end. And when a book gets messed up because it gets bent, boy, howdy, you better look out. Um, but like, if a page is stark white or, really dark, or really tan or just odd looking. Sometimes it can be hard for people to read the books because of the actual page itself. Another weird thing that's like sensory related is the texture of, the cover. So for example, like Things We Never Got Over, it's a nice smooth cover. These two also pretty smooth covers. But the fact is, for example, if you have like the oils on your hands, okay, the oils on your hands. Some of my books have like stains on them, not even from like me not washing my hands because I wash my hands like a maniac. Teacher vibes. But, like, the oils on your hands, like, your books get stained, and it just some people don't like that about paperback, and they prefer hardcover for that reason. So, it's all about personal preference. I prefer paperbacks because they're easier to carry. Um, they're a lot lighter weight. I could carry more than one at a time, and that's usually what I'm doing because that's what I'm usually reading at the time. Um, and I like the feel of them in my hand. Another thing though that a lot of people have issues with is font. And so for example, Outlander, Zach got me the whole series for Valentine's Day. I have a hard time with Outlander because the font is so small and the book is so small. So I'm sitting here like, but at the same time, like, yeah, you could say Things We Never Got Over has small print, like small font, but the book's bigger. So it's sensory issues is a big deal for a lot of people. And I completely get that because you're looking at someone who deals with that. And it depends on the type of book that you're reading. I mean, so that's why if some people have noticed, I do bring up like the sensory friendly things and the non-friendly things in my videos because some people prefer e-readers. I'm not an e-reader person. I don't own a Kindle. I don't like Kindles because I rather feel like the pages in my hand and like smell the book. Like smell the book and just hold the book. But some people prefer Kindles because they rather not have all the clutter, but also it's a sensory thing. Another big book-ick that some people don't like is literally what the covers look like. So if you're on BookTok, cartoon covers. I like cartoon covers. The joke about cartoon covers is if it's a cartoon cover, it's going to be a spicy book. I mean, nice. So, I mean, it honestly depends again on your personal preference of what you like to read. So, let's take our sip of water, take our second, and let's talk about the next thing. My preference. I'm a big reader of all types of things. I like romance novels. I usually stick to romance novels. Will they have spicy scenes in them? Most of mine do. Is that a bad thing? No. I do like a good thriller and mystery. I like fantasy to an extent. I like I said, I just read this one other vampire novel called Eternally Damned, and it was a romance fantasy novel between, a fated mates type situation. So I mean, like, I like that type of stuff. Now, high fantasy and I have issues. So, for example, where did I put my Outlander? Outlander is a fantasy novel, a historical fantasy novel. My one of my big ones I want to read, The Eye of the World by Robert Jordan, or this really cool one that's all over Book Talk called The Priory of the Orange Tree. Big boy, such a big book. But the issue with high fantasy is that there's a lot of things going on at different times. And so one of the big things that a lot of people lately do is they annotate their books. Now, I the amount of guilt that I feel when I write in my books is immense. It's one thing if I'm writing in a textbook, like I me and my textbooks go hand in hand. But writing in a book is a really tricky thing for me. A lot of the big popular things now is something called annotating. So a lot of book readers on Book Talk, they boy the hiccups. They buy these flags. Um, they buy flags. Their favorite thing to do is they like to have them match, the book. So for example, if I were to annotate Outlander, you'd have flags that match. Okay, and then you have like special highlighters and like pens. Here's my thing about me. I write really big. And I'm so nervous because what if I highlight the wrong thing? What if I mark the wrong thing? What if it bleeds through the page? Oh my lord. I would literally have like so annotating is a really big thing in the book talk community. Um, if I start annotating, I'm probably just going to start with the flags and like write down on the flags, like, what am I using this for? Like, is this going to be a spicy scene I want to remember? Is this a scene that I want to like forget? Like, you know what I mean? It's one of those things where annotating, it can be so diverse for a lot of different reasons. And so I'm willing to try annotating. I probably won't be writing in my books because it freaks me out. But you never know. I do want to practice before I get to, the Pyre of the Orange Tree. I hear a lot of people need to like annotate that because it jumps from perspective to perspective to perspective. And you have like three different storylines going on at one point. So, annotating is supposed to help you understand and get to where you need to be when you read. So we'll see how that goes. I have my handy dandy pens that my student gave me. I bought this brand new red journal so I can start doing, more ideas. My cat journal is a little messy, so I bought one just for my podcast and to annotate. So I'm like, my precious. But I mean, it all depends on the point of view of the person. Like, it's all about preference. Book-icks, preference. The last episode I talked about were tropes. Second second chance tropes aren't always my thing because they usually involve, like, for example, cheating from one person on the other. And that's not really a vibe that I'm really in the mood to read about. If I want to read a book, I want an HEA or a happily ever after. Doesn't matter if it's a why choose type deal or like a fated mate or, a grumpy sunshine. That's one of my favorite ones. Um, like it all depends on like the person. Like I want to have a good ending. I want to feel good when I read, whether it brings me to tears because it like moved me so much. Like it all depends on the type of book. And I can definitely tell you that some books are a lot easier to read than others because of A, the writing, B, the style, and C, what you're trying to get from out of it. I prefer a more of a standalone type deal. I'm currently reading the Curse Breaker series. I read A Curse So Dark and Lonely. I really enjoyed that book. I can't wait to do a review on it for you guys. But the issue is I have the other two books in the trilogy, and I'm reading the second book, but I'm struggling with it because I know that it's not as good as the other one. Like, we're in that generation where, yeah, other people can, sway you on what you read. And I have this like thought in my head of how I want it to go, and I'm so scared that it's not going to go that way that I'm debating on if I want to finish it or not. And does that make me a bad person? No. Does that mean that I gave up on the book? No. And that's the other thing too. And that really does make me upset in the book talk community is if you don't finish a book, that doesn't mean that you failed reading the book. There's a reason why you had to stop. Um so there's like for example, I was reading this one book and I really liked it, but literally the tagline, I got it from Target. It goes a mixture between 50 Shades of Grey meet um trying to think of what the other book was. But the point is like it was so much like 50 Shades of Grey to the point like it went I don't like it. So I have to stop for a while because it's not what I wanted from the book. Am I going to finish it? Yeah, I'll finish it eventually. It's just I need to get in that right headspace to wanting to actually finish it. Um I read a lot of different things, I read a lot of dark romance, regular romance, um, The Haunting of Adeline series, the cat and mouse duet. That is a very dark romance series. That's all over Book Talk. But, with how dark it is, you need to be in the right headspace to want to read it and actually finish it. So, I mean, like when you traverse into this world of Bookworm, Book Talk, and everything else, you have to be really aware of what you're wanting to come across and what you're actually wanting to read. That's why this channel is going to be a place where you have an eclectic version of books. Am I going to talk about series? Yes. One series that I'm reading is the Twisted Villains type deal, where the book series, it's a dark romance series where the villains are the main characters. So, like, Hooked, a retelling based off of Peter Pan, where Captain Hook is the main character. But it's not like Neverland isn't where it takes place. It's modern day type deal. Um, Scarred, The Lion King. Right now I'm on the third one, but like I said in my other video, I'm not a fan of The Wizard of Oz. I mean, I like it, but not to the point where I'm like dying to read it. And so it's got me at the standstill where I'm like, and that is a-okay. So for those who are wondering how I pick my books, do I forget what they're about? Not really. I have a pretty decent memory when it comes to what I'm reading, so that's why I'm able to jump from book to book to book. So, as we wrap up this video, I want to first say thank you for coming to our first ever, Bookworm After Dark. I know this is not as like the normal type of book review you're probably looking for. Um, I was asked if we could do stuff like this, so I was really curious to see how I'd like it. And I actually really enjoy just sitting in my PJs talking about what I like to read and what I don't like. So, as usual, like and subscribe. If you're interested in following me on my Goodreads journey, you can also go in, the link on my YouTube page, and you can find that there. As usual, everyone, have a wonderful rest of your evening. Keep on reading and have a good night. All right. Bye, everybody.